I had the screening this morning and I found it spectacular. And the first thing I thought is lots of green screen, lots of CG. How was shooting this movie?
It was difficult. It was the most complex thing I've ever done, by far. I mean, I think if you added up everything I've made, it wouldn't be as complex as this single movie. It was really challenging because the movie is just so big. And, you know, one day you're sinking a building, another day you're crashing a helicopter, another day you're jumping out of a plane. It was just a complete onslaught, and I tried to shoot as much in camera as I could. There is a lot of visual effects, there is a lot of CG, but I was always really focused on performance. I just wanted the actors to be in a zone. I wanted it to feel real. I wanted to feel as grounded as possible. And so when you get into that mindset, you kind of start shaking every building and hitting them with dust and dirt and wind and making it as real as possible. And I think that's why it feels so real to people, and I think it's why the visual effects actually matter, because they care about the characters, they care about the events that's happening to them. So it was really, really challenging, but you know, it's also the thing I'm most proud of ever making, because it was so challenging, and because I think beyond everything I've ever made, it does feel the most real.
And it's a big production as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've made two $80 million movies before this. This is bigger than those movies, but there was something more demanding about this. I think there was just so many more things in this movie that just no one had done before. Like, we had to sink a skyscraper. So figuring out how to sink a skyscraper took months just to engineer that. So there was just a challenge just because of the complexity was on another level.
Yeah, and this is your second collaboration with Dwayne Johnson. So how do you feel about that? It's change?
Well, I think every collaboration evolves, you know. I think as you get to know people and everyone grows creatively, I think everyone kind of evolves and grows. He grows as he goes off and does movies. I grow as I go off and do movies. I think the big thing for us is that we've earned each other's trust. So when we work together now, there's a level of trust that is rare, I think, in the film industry, because you often don't get to work with the same people again and again. And I'd worked with the same producers on this movie as I had on Journey, Beau Flynn, and Dwayne, you know, obviously he was the star of that movie. And so there's just a lot of trust, and he's such a good guy. It's so easy to work with him. He's fun. He doesn't get nervous. The pressure doesn't get to him. There's some actors that kind of shrink when they're challenged, and Dwayne's the opposite. He lives to the challenge. He wants the challenges. So
and you do something to build this cast, because for this kind of movie they have to team up.
Yeah.
So did you do something particular to cast these actors together? Because there is a great chemistry between them.
Yeah, well, I try to find actors that in real life have characteristics that their characters need to embody. You know, that there's, for example, with Paul Giamatti, there is a level of cognitive kind of approach. There's an intelligence factor that, you know, you need from someone who's going to read you a bunch of facts on earthquakes. You know, you want to believe that. And I approach everybody that way. I look at every cast member, I look at every role, and I think, okay, this person needs something they can feed off of in their real life in order to influence who this character is going to be. The most interesting chemistry, I think, was Dwayne and Carla, because they had worked together before. They were familiar with each other, and so you instantly got this sense very quickly in the process that helped them build this backstory, because you got to think, you cut into the movie and you don't know the situation they're in. And then suddenly you meet and you go, oh, they're going through a divorce. That means they've been married for years and years and years. They have a teenage daughter who's going off to college. They have to be very familiar with each other. You have to believe that relationship. Exactly. And because they'd worked together before, it was almost instantaneous, and it was fantastic. You just instantly bought it. And then later in the movie, when they're having these kind of nicer conversations, it was great because you're watching that happen and you're like, I see why they were married. Like, they really like each other. And so the off-camera relationship and respect they have for each other was instantly on camera, and it made their performances fantastic.
Yeah, what's your favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene in the movie, it's weird. I mean, I have probably my favorite scene is the airplane scene between Dwayne and Carla.
Yeah.
When they talk about when he tells her what happened. It was really challenging to do, and I was just blown away by both Dwayne and Carla's performances. I just thought people aren't going to be ready for this. They're not going to be used to seeing Dwayne this way. Both of them were so raw. They were so honest. And then beyond that one, and I'm obviously a total softie. It's in the boat at the end with the resuscitation scene is what we called it. And Carla has that moment where she says, "My baby," because she's obviously they're about to lose their daughter. And when I filmed that, I couldn't watch the monitors because it was so real. It was just so it was so raw. And you know what it's like when you're somewhere and you see someone in an argument or someone's crying and you feel like that's private and you won't look at it. You just kind of turn away and like let those people have that moment. I was having that reaction as I'm filming them. When she was doing that stuff and Dwayne's, trying to resuscitate his daughter and he's giving up and he doesn't know what to do and he's lost, I had a hard time watching the monitors because it was so real. It was so gut-wrenching and so honest. And that's a rare experience as a director, You're usually glued to the monitor studying every detail. To have to viscerally turn away because what you're seeing is so real and so honest is a unique thing.
So disaster movie is going to be a genre on its own. What do you think is the difference between this one and the other movies?
A couple things. I think that a lot of times in terms of disaster movies, you don't have the intimacy of this movie. I don't think you have the heart that this movie has. I think that's hopefully at the end of the day what people take away from it, and ultimately I want to be remembered, for as a director, is that the heart and the emotion is the most important thing in the movies that I make. So there's a lot of times you get all the scale and you get all the spectacle, but you don't get the intimacy, and that's what I actually really love about movies. Is I love the juxtaposition and I love the intimacy and I love the heart, and that's why I go to see movies. The other thing about this movie is that a lot of times these movies are done where you just see all the shots from the sky and you're looking at the destruction. You're kind of witnessing it, but you're not experiencing it. And my thing was to try to put you in there with the lead characters. And, this is... by the way, I don't think of all these things exactly when I'm making them. I'm just trying to tell a story about these people. And I'm just really invested in trying to get you to understand them, love them, care about them as much as I do. But, a lot of these movies, they cut to the president, and you're suddenly seeing that, or a senator, or something like that, or you cut to wherever. This movie is following a family as they're trying to put themselves back together through this big event. And I just think that's a more grounded, intimate way of telling the story. And it puts you, the audience, inside of the story because you're just with them. And in this movie, you never cut away from the lead characters. You're just literally following them through the whole story. And so I'm not back here looking at it safely. I'm putting you in the event with them so that you can experience it the way they're experiencing it. And a lot of these movies don't do that.
I've been safe from war.